Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike here, taking a look at the DRF race of the day for Thursday, August the 29th. It's race number 10 at Kentucky Downs, opening day at Kentucky Downs. Let's take a look at the field for the $500,000 restricted Tapit Stakes. We're going 1 mile and 70 yards for 3 and up, which have not won a stakes race in 2024. No surprise, if you like Kentucky Downs, you're getting big purses, you're getting big overflow fields, 12 in the body of the race, 13 down, also eligible.
Yeah, big field. It feels like a wide open race. Then, even though I think, we got a relatively clear-cut favorite on the morning line here, dropping out of a grade 1, but I'm not sure that morning line favorite necessarily stands out too much in here.
That is the number 5, Fantastic Again, for Frankie Dettori and Wesley Ward. Wesley told our colleague Marcus Hirsch earlier this week he's not sure if he's going to start Fantastic Again here. He has options and likely going to cross-enter in a couple of other races. But if Fantastic Again does start, he's a strong contender and he does have speed. Here's the Timeform US pace projector for the Tapit Stakes. Fantastic Again, expected to get to the early lead, and he ran very well last time out when shipped out to Southern California. He found a good spot in that race. He just caught a good one in Johannes.
It's a good horse. He ran very well in his most recent start. He could easily make the lead here, Dan, if this is where they decide to run him. I don't know, man. I'm not going to sit here and try to make a track profile for Kentucky Downs. I have no idea what's going on at that track, but I don't feel like I see that many front running winners over there.
European configuration, lots of dips and dives and a long stretch. Maybe that helps the 10 chasing the crown, coming into this race in good form off a couple of graded stakes placings. Note the LP designation over his chiclet. That means he has the fastest Timeform US late pace rating. We'll start things off with the number 1, 911 Turbo, who went on a big streak in 2023, finishing first in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 6 starts, earned a graded stakes placing during that little streak, and is now making his 3rd start off of a lengthy layoff. Looks like he's rounding himself back into shape, and he was just simply in too tough last time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was only a 3-horse field. He was never going to win that race anyway, but now he's 3rd off the layoff in what's probably a spot that's a better fit for him, Dan. I mean, it's not like he doesn't have, anything to prove here, but I thought this horse was a little interesting. Once he finally did win a race, and it took him a while to break his maiden, but once he did that, as you mentioned, he got on a real run there. For whatever reason, they thought he was more of a sort of a distance horse last year, and he ran fine in those races, but I don't mind them going shorter with this horse at all.
He chased some quick internal fractions in that race last time out in Colonial and wound up second best to Integration, who ended up finishing second in a subsequent start at the Arlington Million with a 100 buyer. Miranda Rits is the number 2, and I think this horse is a little bit dirtied up. His last race at Ellis Park, he was wired in a very slow-paced affair. They went 49 and change to the half, and he was doing a little bit of late running to finish 3rd. He came into that race in good form off of a win at Churchill Downs, and if Mark Cassie's Saratoga run continues at Kentucky Downs, you better take an eye on this horse at a big price.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? We'll see what he does here. He's come back as a new gelding, as a 4-year-old, and I certainly think he's come back an improved horse. You mentioned the slow pace last time. He's been in a bunch of slow-paced races so far this year, Dan, and that also includes the win, though, 2 starts back, where he just got a perfect trip right up close to a walking pace.
Siege of Boston, the number 3, is one of those consistent runners with lots more seconds and thirds than wins. I thought if he was ever going to win one, it was going to be that Monmouth Stakes as the favorite 2 starts back, where I thought he got a really nice ride from Jorge Ruiz, saved ground, cut the corner into the stretch, and ended up finishing 4th. Last time out at Ellis, maybe compromised a little bit by a slow pace, but had to look at it again and finish 2nd. He fits from a class standpoint. I need a price, and 8-1 is fair.
I agree with all that. I mean, he's one of those horses where it feels like, at least so far, the graded stakes races are just a little too tough for him. He can't just find a way to break through there, Dan. And he is a horse who gets good trips in his races. It's hard to go through any of those recent starts where he came up short and find a real big trip excuse for him. He just hasn't been good enough in those races, but he certainly fits right in with this group.
Irish Aces is the number 4. He's a very lightly raced gelding. It appears he does have some upside potential. He returned from a short layoff to finish 3rd in the Arlington 2 starts back. Didn't really see an excuse for that race, other than maybe he needed one off the bench. And then he ran at Saratoga in a 2nd-level allowance race. And Irish Aces did get some pace to run at. I mean, they went 23 and change for the opening quarter, 23 and change for the 2nd quarter, tailor-made for closers. And Irish Aces, who was in behind horses for a little while, Mike, does run well to be 3rd.
Yeah, you could argue that he was a beaten favorite here. He got a little unlucky in this race, Dan. Blocked down past mid-stretch in this race. He gets out. He runs at the end here. and he's just going to miss. I mean, I have no problem with anybody who views him as an unlucky loser in there. I like this horse. I've always been a fan of his. I think he's pretty good. I think he's a major contender in this race.
Fantastic again goes out for Ward and Dettori, the morning line favorite. He was entered in that dinner party, I think, at Pimlico, and he drew an outside post. Wesley Ward was very bullish on his chances. He probably scratched due to the outside post on the soft ground and ran him in the Shoemaker Mile, a grade 1 instead at Santa Anita, pardon me. Showed speed, conceded the pace, and is eventually going to make his second move to the front. Just no match for Johannes, who came back and won the Eddie Reed with a 102 buyer. That horse is the best middle distance runner in Southern California.
Yeah, the horse that beats him here is just, he's a real good horse. And I thought Fantastic again ran really, really well in here to be second. Triple digit buyer. He's got the speed. You know, he's still relatively lightly raced at. I'm not sure that I love that he's missed, 3 months since that Shoemaker Mile, and that will show up here, but especially at a short price. But in a lot of ways, he's the horse to beat here. I just don't think I'd go too short on him.
The number 6 at Tone is very much like Siege of Boston. He's been a nibbler recently. We haven't seen him reach the winner's circle since January of 2023 when he won the Pegasus World Cup Turf under a beautiful ride from Miranda Ortiz, part of a fast pace last time out at Saratoga before tiring. He's a horse that you never really want to give short shrift to because he's made a lot of money. He does get minor awards at big prices, and it'll be a price again.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a race in him that if he runs it here and gets the right trip, that he could easily beat this field. So I don't think you want to be too dismissive of him, even though he just doesn't really win races anymore. He's 15-1 on the morning line. It's a very fair price. They've run this horse here 2 times previously, Dan, but when they brought him here before, it was for the Mint Million, a much tougher race. They're getting a little bit more realistic here.
Illman is the number 7, and this horse is stretching out in distance after competing in several turf sprints for trainer Joe Orsino. He has run well around 2 turns in the past. Now, he doesn't have a ton of early speed, at least in those short sprints. And last time out, a closer needs pace and a closer needs a trip. Well, he got pace. The trip was a little bit dicey.
Exactly. He had enough of an excuse there. He is kind of more of a closing sprinter. I generally don't like those horses when they stretch him back out, Dan, but he has back form around 2 turns, which is perfectly fine. I mean, I don't think there's any real way to look at his overall races and say, oh, he's way better sprinting than he is routing. I don't know if that's the case. I'm also not sure that he's good enough to beat this field, assuming everybody else shows up.
Harland Estate, the number 8, is going to make his first start since winning this race last year and doing so at 37-1. It's always nice to know when you have a horse that likes the form at Kentucky Downs and the going. This horse ran okay last time out in his prep for the Tapit. Here's a second place effort at Saratoga. It was the race that featured a Tone and a really solid pace, 23 and change third quarter. Harland Estate comes with a good run to finish second, and it looks like he's coming into this race in good form, arguably in better form than last year when he pulled off the upset.
Yeah, I mean, he ran okay in this race. There's no doubt about it, but he's only second best here. It's not like you're talking about a horse who was unlucky not to win here, Dan. In fact, he was lucky to be second in there. This horse is fine. It's nice to know that he likes this turf course here because sometimes that's just half the battle. You don't really know if the horses who haven't run here before are going to be at their best over this, sort of quirky turf course. This guy handles it.
Champion's Dream is the number 9. He'll be making his turf debut for red-hot trainer Safi Joseph off of a win in this race. It was a synthetic race at Gulfstream Park on the Tapit, and if you believe that good synthetic form translates to turf, maybe Champion's Dream has sort of found his niche. He went to the Frontier first start for Safi, grinds it out to win. He has some turf pedigree, Justify, 14% winners, some turf riders, and the damn one on the sod.
Yeah, exactly. And it's nice to know that once they finally did, overall, Dan, I just want to say he's probably been a little bit of a disappointment as a dirt horse because he did start out with some potential. They finally switched surfaces with him last time, and it was the fastest race that he's ever run. So I think that's probably a good sign. He has enough pedigree to now try a totally different surface again. I don't really like him in this race, but there are some things that make him a little interesting.
Chasing the Crown has just been in solid form for maker. J Ortiz will pick up the mount. A good second in the Arlington, 2 starts back behind Irish Aces. No match for Ottoman Fleet. And he caught Ottoman Fleet again in the Wise Dan, a grade 2 at Churchill Downs. And in that race, Ottoman Fleet was just able to make the lead on him, and he wired the field. The third place finisher came back and backed up the form with a third in the Bowling Green at Saratoga with a 100 buyer. You just expect this horse to make a good late run, and he's run well at Kentucky Downs in the past.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's just a really logical horse in here. I mean, I kept looking at him there because I wanted to really like him in here, but he's, I just think he's an okay horse. If the trip works out for him, he could easily win this race. He's probably not going to be a very interesting price in here. He's not, hard to make a case for. I will just point out that the Kentucky Downs race that you're talking about last year, going 7, he did run fine in that race, but he had no excuse not to win that day.
English B is the number 11, and he's been solid for a long time. He won the Virginia Derby in 2019 for Graham Motion, and he's still kicking. And he doesn't win very often, but he's a lot better than what he showed last time out in the dinner party, where it was a soft turf course and a quick pace, and I just don't think it worked out for him. My problem with English B is 2 starts back in the Henry Clark. I know he only lost by a length and a quarter, but that margin of victory is probably flattering to English B. Data Man was much the best.
Absolutely. Listen, English B, really cool horse. It's nice that he's still around as an 8-year-old, and he's still running representative races. I mean, the horse he's been good for a real long time. He just never wins, and I'm never really that interested in betting him.
I've seen a lot worse 50-1 shots than the number 12 Howling Time, who was a stakes winner as a 2-year-old, graded stakes placed at 3, and ran sparingly after that. He did win last time out at Belterra Park, and he's only raced once previously on the turf, but he was wired in a slow-paced race at Churchill Downs, a start that produced 3 other next-out winners. Howling Time has a little bit of turf pedigree as well. At 50-1, if you think that this is the Kentucky Downs way, they're going to get big prices and wacky results, here he is.
I was just going to say, it's maybe a little counterintuitive, but isn't he the kind of horse that you want to at least take a second look at Kentucky Downs? Because, man, this horse he clearly has talent. His good race is actually really good. And there are so many horrific performances on his card with no real explanation for it. I don't really know what to say about this horse. I'm not betting him in here. But there are ways to look at horses like him at Kentucky Downs for the first time and at least want to take a second look.
And if Wesley scratches the morning line favorite, one of the also eligibles will get into the race. Either Noises Off, who won at Kentucky Downs already. Uncle Jake, to me, of the 3 horses on the AE list, I think makes the most sense, getting blinkers once again and a second start off of a layoff.
Yeah, second time turf for that horse, too, who handled the surface fine in his most recent start going longer. I thought Noises Off the first AE. Yeah. I could use that horse if he got in.
Let's take a look at before we take a look at our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Forum YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Top pick time, opening day stakes race. Race of the day is the Tapit at Kentucky Downs. 911 Turbo racing himself back in his shape. 3rd start of the form cycle, tactical enough to pull a trip.
That's what I like that about him. He's going to be a price in here anyway. I just feel like his form is so consistent, Dan. He's going to get the right trip in this race. I don't think he's overmatched by these horses, and I like that they're going a little bit shorter with him here.
I'm concentrating my play on the logical horses, the 5 and the 10, but I want to play Irish Aces on top. I think he's progressive. He's lightly raced enough. We haven't seen his best race. And you saw in the video last time out, he did have a little bit of trouble. 1, 3, 4, 10 for Mike, 4, 5, 10, 3 for me. It's the Tapit, $500,000 stake at Kentucky Downs on Thursday. Good luck.